It's another fine day at Camp Dynasty. I am Counselor Austin, joined by Counselor Collin, and we are about to dish out some badges for week 5 of college football.
Yeah, another week in the books, pushing on, soldiering on in this season, starting to feel the sample size maybe get larger and larger every week. We come out here these first few, week 1, 2, 3, and we're like, yeah, it's not a big sample size, but we're starting to see some trends. I think you can start to say like we have a decent sample size by week 5. We're
Yeah.
almost pretty much mid-season. We're getting pretty close, and you can kind of start to make some claims, I would say, about a few of these players at least.
It's starting to make a little bit more sense. That is for sure. And I mean, we're only 2 weeks away, I think, from mid-season rankings check-in.
Yeah.
So it's coming fast, and there's going to be some changes. I can guarantee on my board.
Yeah.
I'm sure yours as well. So it's been a really interesting season, both in terms of guys that have kind of proven it and taken that step that you were hoping to see, as well as those guys that are not really doing that. And we're going to talk about both instances of that on this very show today. So, without further ado, jumping into the badges, here's one of those players that is immensely helping themselves through 5 weeks this season, I would say. And that is Makai Lemon, who I believe has already gotten 3 badges, I think, in 5 weeks.
That sounds right.
So I mean, if you've been listening to us, certainly from the summer, you've heard about Makai Lemon a ton already. This is my number 2 wide receiver coming into the year, number 4 overall player in the class. He is ascending. I made the comment last week. We gave him a badge last week. Said he's taking a step forward. Not going to come out and say he's like all of a sudden a first round caliber wide receiver or anything like that. I think as weeks are going by, as the numbers keep going up, it's starting to feel like maybe Makai Lemon is a first round caliber wide receiver prospect. Because, I mean, this week against Illinois, he's getting not the lemonade badge, but the charged lemonade
Oh,
badge.
okay. The ones
So,
that were like killing people at Panera
yes,
Bread.
yes, not sponsored by
No,
Panera,
no.
but
Don't want a
uh,
lawsuit from Panera.
right. But it is the charged lemonade because I mean he's playing charged on the field, and in this game in particular, 11 catches on 16 targets, both of those numbers career highs for Lemon. Had 151 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Just a bunch of ridiculous plays in this game, one of which didn't even count. He had maybe the most impressive play of the day from him was on the trick play where he made like 3 guys miss in the open field and scored, and then it got called back for an eligible man downfield, I believe.
How do you
So
even do that in
I
college? You get like 5 yards. What are you doing all the way down there?
I don't know. It sucked. I literally saw the highlight before I went back through this game, and I didn't know that it got called back. I just saw it like on Saturday, and I was like, "Holy shit, there he is!" And then I'm going back, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, that didn't even count," and he
Yeah.
still had 2 touchdowns. What the hell? So yeah, I mean, he's been a menace after the catch this year. That has been kind of his next step, I would say. Praised him in the summer for being a separator, a field stretcher, having that explosiveness from the slot, maybe a little bit of versatility to even get out wide off the line of scrimmage from the Z position. But I think this year, what we're seeing from him is another dimension after the catch, making guys miss in the open field and scoring on plays that he's catching in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I would agree. I was a little skeptical on Lemon coming in because I felt like he was a little bit of a boom bust kind of player where it was nice route running. It was deep threat ability, the speed. It was all there, but it felt like a recipe of like, okay, I'm gonna plug this guy in, and he's gonna have, you know, 5 points or 30. And like, I don't know if I love that as like my number two receiver in the class. As from what he's put together at the beginning of the season, he has solidified himself easily as the number two receiver on my board, at least. Um, just really impressive stuff in this game. Just like dominant all over the field against a ranked opponent in Illinois, who's been in a backslide the last two games a little bit, but nonetheless still a pretty solid caliber team to walk into their stadium and just put on a show like this. So I'm all in on Lemon, man.
Well, in this game too, I mean, they were down by, I believe it was 14 points
Mm-hmm.
in the fourth quarter, and Lemon basically took over in the fourth quarter. I believe both of the touchdowns were in the fourth quarter, got ahead, pulled ahead, and then they end up losing this game on the last second field goal. But I mean, it was only because of what Lemon was doing in the fourth quarter that they even got themselves into a position to potentially win this game, because they were kind of getting dominated all day by Illinois.
And Lemon kind of set the tone early. And like, I think it was their first drive. It was in the first quarter for sure, where he gets tackled and his helmet pops off and he's still like fighting for extra yards. I'm like, all right, that's a little bit of like a throwback, that's a football player right there. So that was sick.
All right. Well, we got another sick player, another dog at wide receiver right here.
Yeah, we do. So the Makai Lemon, number two receiver on my board. That's because number one is still being held down by Jordyn Tyson, who's getting another badge. I think his third badge also of the season. Played against TCU, had 8 catches on 11 targets for $126 and 2 touchdowns. And I was watching this game and just like live texting you like, dude, Jordyn Tyson's a freak. Like, this guy's unbelievable. Just every, I don't know how they're not throwing it to zero every single time, because it felt like every time he doesn't get the ball on a drive, the drive is stalling out. Every time he does get the ball, it's like, 16 yards per play and good things happen. This game, it was just like a really nice masterclass in like short yardage route running. Had some really nice slant route reps out of like the slot in this game. Had just like some of the classic like Jordyn Tyson contested catch stuff that you like to see. Had some decent run after the catch in this game as well. 39 yards after the catch. It was just like top to bottom show me the NFL guy in this game. Show me the dominant performer against TCU, who is not Max Duggan's TCU anymore, but they're
Don't forget.
yeah, still a solid 126 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, it has not been a like Malik Neighbors type of a season from Tyson, but I think all things considered in
R.I.P.
this,
Malik Neighbors, by the way.
yeah, we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. Do a little crying around the campfire, but it's been a little bit up and down. I think that has more to say about just this team, the Arizona State team, not being a powerhouse. I mean, Levitt's having a pretty good year. I think he's maybe even raising his stock a little bit in terms of getting some national attention on him as a legitimate quarterback prospect. But I mean, you see what he's doing on a rep to rep basis. He's just playing a different game out there. He is obviously the best player on the field for them. And I think, all things considered, while it hasn't been consistent 100-yard after 100-yard game this year, I mean, he's popping in these moments. He's got 7 touchdowns already through only 5 games played. So, I mean, it's been an awesome season, and I think this is another one of those players where we talked about him in the summer. He's clearly the number one wide receiver in the class. There was never any doubt about that. The only question was, where does that land him in the NFL draft? I think when I was talking about him in the summer, I was viewing him more as a like 15 to 25 sort of player. I think he's making a case that he is worthy of top 10 consideration.
Yeah, I think he'll be right
class.
around 10 come draft day. And I can see a world, and this is projecting really far out here, but the Titans right now have the best odds to land the number one pick. Them trading back for a haul and drafting Jordyn Tyson to pair with Cam Ward, that's sexy. So
inject trade scenarios into my veins on October 1st.
That's right. October NFL draft trades.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
I love it. Please.
Jordyn Tyson, take Calvin Ridley, snatch zero off his back, and take his job too while you're at it.
Man, Cam Ward, Jordyn Tyson, Aya Manor.
Maybe a new offensive line.
New head coach.
New head coach. New offensive coordinator. But let's get him on a fun team with a fun quarterback, because this is a damn fun player. He's getting the consistency badge.
There it is. You know, I realized it too last week. I never said my badge for Ruben Bain, and I'm only bringing it up because I was really proud of it.
Okay.
It was the Fire Rises badge.
Okay.
Like Bane from the Batman.
That's right.
Fire Rise, because he's rising up the draft board.
Have you seen? I don't know how into comics, but Absolute Batman. Have you heard of this?
I think I might have seen a tweet about it.
There's Absolute Bane, who's jacked to all hell, and giant. He's 9 feet tall. But you'll have to look up Absolute Joker when you have some free time.
Wait,
he looks like
is
he's
that
like a monster.
Yeah, like a lizard thing.
Yeah.
That's what I saw on Twitter. I was like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. That's what Ruben Bain looks like to defender to offensive linemen when they line up across from him.
Yeah. Well, on the offensive side, this next player, certainly a monster in his own right. Mr. 101, Jeremiyah Love. We are hitting the top of the class on this show.
If you don't like chalk picks,
Yeah.
this is not the episode for you.
I'm sorry. What do you want me to do when Jeremiyah Love was doing what he did to Arkansas this week? Not only as a running back, but as a receiver as well. Had 14 carries for 57 yards, 2 touchdowns. All right. Fine day on the ground. Receiving 5 catches on 5 targets, 70 yards, 2 more touchdowns. He's got 4 total touchdowns on the day, and he also has plenty of highlights packed into his 127-yard performance. That's why he's getting the blender badge for me.
Ooh.
He was putting defenders in the blender. He was going to the spin move 4 times, and it worked 3, I think.
And he's
especially
blending the pass game work into his run game.
Man, it's like I tried to do that. The screen pass, the little swing in the red zone when he just caught it and immediately stopped and spun for the touchdown. That's probably the biggest highlight from him in this game. But he also had a ridiculous route in this game where they motioned him into the slot, and it looked like he was running a slot fade at first, but then he broke off into a corner route and was wide open, made a great catch along the sideline. I was like, what is this guy really? Are we going to become a wide receiver on top of it here? What can't Jeremiyah Love do?
Yeah, that was the one that popped out to me the most when he ran that corner route, and he tried to put the brakes on to stay in bounds and turn it upfield, and it's relax. All right, we'll take our 30-yard chunk play. You don't got to put all the stress on yourself to score every time you touch the ball, but that's what it looks like he's trying to do every single time he touches the ball. He had the other that was like the pass back screen where he leaked out to the opposite side and had a convoy in front of him, so that made it pretty easy. But yeah, this whole game dominating through the air, had a nice game on the ground, nothing that was like super flashy, but had the goal line just punch his way through with sheer willpower. That's always nice to see with a player that you're like, you think more of the finesse stuff with Jeremiyah Love than you do with the power stuff, but just got to show you every once in a while that, yeah, I can bowl through a guy if he's going to try to stop me on my way to the end zone. So maybe the chalk picks at the top of the show, but when you're they're doing things like this, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to be like,
right.
Nah, sorry, you're too good.
Well, we got 3 chalk picks out of the way. Now let's dig into the deep cuts.
Well, we're going to go IDP here, and we're going Arvell Reese out of Ohio State. Just a freakish performance against Washington. He's getting the heat-seeking missile badge. Arvell Reese, a name that hasn't been brought up on the program. This is a 6'4", 243, 245-pound linebacker for Ohio State. He's played there his whole college career, next to Sonny Styles, who we've talked about before as an IDP prospect here. And Arvell Reese is kind of a combo backer where he's playing on the line and off, or on the ball and off the ball, and just like an unbelievable athlete. We're talking about a one-of-one guy, talking about like just tossing offensive linemen nonchalantly, where he's like got him kind of held up and he's like, all right, it's not even part of the play. Like he's on the back.
You talking about that Ohio, the rep against Ohio?
Yeah, where
he
he's
just ragdolls the 300-pound man. Didn't even look hard.
Yeah,
he looked like speaking of comic books, he looked like Thanos out there. He just like grabbed him and whipped him to the side.
He's like, all right, I'm done with you. Like I don't need this anymore. But in this game, had 4 tackles, had 2 pressures, and a sack. He was doing things, I mean, just like all over the field. He's engaged with like a guard, and then the play will extend, and he'll disengage and fly out and get a tackle for no gain. And it's like, okay, like I didn't think that was humanly possible. And he's getting buzz. If you're in like the draft Twitter sphere, you might have seen his name as like, oh man, Arvell Reese might be like one of the ones. So keep an eye out for this name. One of those athletic freak linebackers that we'll see if he turns out to be like a polished product by end of season NFL time, draft time, what the NFL world thinks of him. But this is the type of guy that's going to light up the combine, that's going to have a really good off season. So we'll see.
Yeah, I set it up by calling him a deep cut, and I'm not sure that in 2 months' time that's still going to be the case, because he is really popping in this young season. I mean, he's had basically 4 excellent games. He made an impression against Texas. We were talking about Sonny Styles after that game, but Reese also had a really nice performance there. Mentioned the rep this year against or a couple weeks ago against Ohio, just long arming the tackle and then just discarding him. So it's one of those things too, where I do wonder what the NFL might want to do with him, because he's got pretty much the same measurables as like a Jalen Walker, at least in terms of the height, weight. Not sure what the length looks like for him, but I mean, he's actually played a couple more snaps on the line versus as a linebacker off the ball this year. Basically even 86 to 84, but it just tells you how much they are utilizing him as a rusher. And he has 9 pressures, 3 sacks. I mean, I wonder if the NFL is going to see his explosiveness which is, jumps off the screen and think, man, if we try to develop him into a pass rusher, what might that look like? But I
Yeah.
think either way, we're going to be talking about this name by the end of the year.
Yeah, he's a little small to be like a pure pass rusher, but we've
Yeah.
seen guys convert and work out, especially guys that are like one of one athletes like Reese is. So I could see it, if people wanted to use him as an on-ball linebacker with like some off-ball packages and like some drop into coverage stuff, that you can get really weird with a player like this on your defense.
Yeah, it's always kind of scary when you say the word tweener,
Right.
like, because a positionless player, how many times have we seen that? But it's like, if it works out, if he really is the chess piece, that, because I mean, also, I haven't, obviously watched all of his snaps this year, but I've seen some pretty good reps from him in coverage as well.
Yeah. I was
So
gonna
it's
say
like,
he didn't have his best coverage day in this game, but overall, like, he is cutting off a lot of passing lanes and getting in between quarterbacks and receivers and dissuading a lot of easy throws.
all right, well, we had a little bit of fun, got a new name into the program, an IDP new name into the program. It's time to go back and play some more hits because we're talking about Elijah Sarratt, the wide receiver from Indiana. If you don't know, but if you've been listening to us over the last few months, you certainly know about Elijah Sarratt. This game against Iowa, dramatic victory for Indiana. This was not as clean as that blowout that we talked about last week against Illinois, but they got the job done this week. Sarratt is getting, we make calls home here, but he's getting the house call badge from me.
And what's
So
the difference?
one of them is bad. One of them is you screwed up. One of them is you housed the game-winning touchdown with just over a minute left in this game. Final stat line for Sarratt: 6 catches, 7 targets, 132 yards, 1 touchdown. The majority of his yardage came in the fourth quarter. He took over the game in the fourth quarter. Started with a seam route. Mendoza ripped it to him, set up the game-tying field goal at that point, 13-13. Next possession, really, really awesome rep on a hook route where he, got into position. There's kind of two defenders in two zones, kind of clouding him. He's just kind of keeping his eyes on Mendoza, hopping in between the defenders, trying to get himself into a favorable position, and ultimately got the pass to come his way because of how active he was in between the zones, and then ultimately settling into the space. Also threw the tackler off of him on that play. So not only found the space, got the pass, but made the extra move to get some yak on that one. That possession, unfortunately, ended with Mendoza throwing a pick, but Indiana gets the ball back with a chance to win the game. And with a minute 36 left, Sarratt slant route, tackler lunges at his legs. He busts through it and delivers Indiana another victory on this young season. So, I mean, it was a really, really complete game for him, showing you a lot of the things that you like to see from him. The route running was on display here. Seeing a little bit after the catch, that's not always something that you see from him. This week, it was 75 yards after the catch. That was the second most in his career in one game and the most since he's been at Indiana. So not a player that traditionally is flashing a lot of skill with the ball in his hands, but he was making guys miss, throwing guys off, and creating yards in this one as well.
Yeah, I actually heard Amon-Ra St. Brown on his podcast say that wide receivers don't love it when you call them possession receivers. He's like, and this was in response to David Montgomery saying that running backs don't like it when you call them power running backs because it feels like you're saying like you're slow. Pretty much is like you're slow or you're unathletic because you can't do the things. So Sarratt I'm done calling you possession receiver, which I have done before, because in that slant route that he took to the house was not something a possession receiver would do, because it was very much like, take that, hit the gas, have a tackler kind of biting at your ankles, get through that, stay on your feet, and take it another 60 yards to the crib. That's pretty good ball right there. On top of that, also a really good possession receiver. So nice route runner with a little bit of extra gas to burn that it doesn't show up a lot, but game on the line, sometimes you just got to show off a little bit. So another fun game from Sarratt. I thought about shouting out Mendoza this week. Also, again, another game littered with these NFL type of throws. He throws that like turkey hole shot better than a lot of guys in college football right now. There's a lot of NFL throws on this Mendoza tape, and national media is starting to get on the train with us after that Illinois game, especially last week.
Yeah, he had to fight through a little bit of adversity this week, which was a good thing because we talk about the strength of schedule in the first 3 weeks being pretty mediocre, makes it look way too easy against number 9 Illinois. Now facing a little bit of adversity, having to put together that game-winning drive after throwing an interception, getting that out of your mind and letting Sarratt do what he does best on that play to win the game. So, yeah, really, really fun stuff. Indiana, I mean, I think we've given at least one Indiana player a badge on every single
I think you're right.
week this season.
Yeah,
So it's a fun team to keep your eyes on for sure.
absolutely.
All right. Well, I went back to the chalkboard, but you're going back to the new name bin.
That's right. I'm going to C.J. Williams, who, if you're a Wisconsin fan, you remember the name C.J. Williams coming over from USC from 2022 to 2023, and that was not what it was supposed to be. I think, I don't know if you remember this, but I was tuned in this Luke Fickell era started with him bringing in CJ Williams, who was like a 5-star receiver prospect from USC. Didn't have the best year at USC, but going to start this new like kind of air raid scheme at Wisconsin. None of that worked out. It's been a complete disaster for the Badgers. CJ Williams rightfully gets out, which don't blame you, and ends up at Stanford, where first 3 weeks it was kind of more of the same, 30 yards, 31 yards, and 1 yard. But then last week had a nice game against Virginia, 9 catches on 13 targets for a $103. And then against San Jose State this week had 19 targets, 12 catches, 138. He's getting the vacuum badge because he was just absolutely vacuuming up targets. He was vacuuming, and he's a 6'1", 205 receiver. He's a big play threat. This is a guy that like has that athletic ability where he was a 5-star once upon a time. He's like, you kind of know the type if you've like been around this kind of, he's a 5-star. He's an athlete. He hasn't produced a ton. What does this mean? Well, you turn on the tape and it's like, when it's going good, it's like, how does this not work all the time? Like, how is this guy not just awesome? And in back-to-back games, he's starting to feel a little more of that consistency where they're featuring him in this Stanford offense, and he's getting more targets rather than being the guy that's only stretching the field and only getting these deep downfield targets. He's working pretty exclusively as an outside receiver, and he's been pretty impressive that way. They were kind of trying to figure him out early on. In the first game, he played like 40 or 30% of the snaps in the slot, and then he was all outside, and then he was back to 20% in the slot. And so it's been this feeling out process while he's been starting with Stanford. But now this is back-to-back games over 3 yards per route run, and that's a really high number. Usually we're looking for guys to be like over 2.5. being over 3 and being up at like 3.3, 3.2 is really good. So impressive. He was 6 for 8 on contested catches in this game. So again, high difficulty catches. So I've always kind of liked CJ Williams just because of what he was supposed to mean for Wisconsin. But now that he's like doing it actually at Stanford, it's fun to see.
Yeah, this was a fun watch. I mean, what's really surprising me about the trajectory of this season for him is to see the A dot number and how that has changed from the first 3 weeks where he was struggling to produce to now these back-to-back games. The A dot in the first 3 weeks, 8, 5, 5, and we get up to 12 and then 11. And now you start to see him starting to come alive a little bit. And that's what I was seeing in this game. I mean, they were running him on crossers, some deep crossers as well. The play at the end of the game where he makes a diving catch at the goal line, that was on a deep crossing route, and that set them up for the game. What was eventually the game-winning field goal or game-winning touchdown. So, I mean, he made a huge play in a huge spot, and honestly, kind of the rest of it looked pretty clean to me. Wouldn't call him like a world-class route runner or anything, but saw a lot of good things from him in this game. When he wasn't running crossers, you see the little out routes, stuff to the boundary. And yeah, like you said, 6 for 8 uncontested catches. And again, that's not to say that he's not separating. I think that had more to do with the sorts of, what you're getting in the Stanford offense and the kind of throws that you're getting from a Stanford quarterback where, talking about a player that's leaving the Badgers to go to Stanford. When Stanford is an upgrade over the Badgers, you probably know that Wisconsin's in a bad spot.
Yeah.
But that's what we have here for CJ Williams.
Yep. Here we go. Another new name to throw on the chart. Run them across the field, let them run away from people.
Remember the name at the Senior Bowl when he does something crazy there.
Yeah,
be like,
when he runs like a go route. It's like, oh man, that guy's fast. What's up with him?
6'1", 205. Look at him go. All right. Well, 6'1", 205 looks small compared to this next player. For the second time this year, Duce Robinson is getting a badge at Camp Dynasty, which makes me very happy. I still don't know what this means. I still don't know that he's going to be in this draft class. He might very well just enter his name into the loaded 2027 class, but he is at least showing us that the pedigree that he has behind him as a 5-star player, another 5-star player here, one that didn't pan out at USC. Man, I didn't realize until now the parallels between these two. But we gave him a badge earlier, week 2 against, small school Texas A&M, Eastern Texas A&M or something. I don't know, one of those schools. And it was like, it's just good to see him do this because he hasn't done this in college yet. And this week against Virginia, who turns out was a worthwhile opponent because they beat them in this game, but had 9 catches on 12 targets for 147 yards and a touchdown. But what really caught my eye in this one was some of the route running that you were seeing from him at this size, 6'6", 223. We've talked a little bit about him. If you've been here before, this is was a tight end that was converted to wide receiver when he got to USC. He looks like a beast. I mean, he looks like Johnny Wilson. If we remember those days at Florida State, that's kind of what you're getting here. The difference is he is showing you something as a route runner that we didn't see from Johnny Wilson. He put a move on a guy in this game, the stutter go, where I was like, what the hell? Like, you've never seen anything like that from Duce Robinson. And especially, like, it looks so, it's accentuated by his size. To see a player of this size stop and then immediately come out of it and burst back downfield, gain a ton of separation, made a great catch on that play, got smashed. They called it targeting. He held on, got right back up. We also had the play that wasn't at the end of this game, which you feel free to disagree with me. Keep me in check here. I think it should have been a catch. Did you see the play?
Yeah. I think it should have been a catch.
Like, if nothing else, because it was called a catch on the field.
Right.
I don't know how you overturn it.
Yeah,
I guess
with like you got to have sufficient evidence, and I don't know if you like. It feels like he has full possession while his foot's still on the ground, and
right.
then like if you're gonna watch it 100 times, and then like the right foot, like that feels like it's inbounds. I don't know.
Yep.
I thought that if you're gonna call it a catch on the field, it felt like he had at least a foot down and he had possession. So I I would have stayed with it on the field. It was kind of sick seeing the field storming though from Virginia, like the immediate field storming and like
That was a
trampling.
scary one.
It was.
There might have been. I was like, the two players that were in the corner of the end zone. I was like, where did they go? They're
Yeah,
gone.
they just got engulfed by the sea of Navy. But no, I think it should have been a touchdown.
I mean, if you want to tell me that he should have caught it before bobbling it, sure, I agree with you. He should have caught it. The fact that he has the coordination to make the play that close after the bobble, taking 2 steps, the ball is coming out of his hands behind him. He's reaching behind him, corralling it, and giving himself a chance at even making the catch a second time and potentially pulling it off, even though it was ruled not. I mean, to me, that was a negative and a positive play. I mean, catch the ball, but also like that's impressive coordination from him. And I think that's some of the stuff that, excites you about him, where that's not a catch this week, but in the future it will be.
Yeah, and the route you were talking about, the stutter go, that was really impressive, was set up earlier by a couple back shoulder catches that he had. He had one that was really. I mean, when you're this big and like you're such a vertical threat, it's so valuable to have the back shoulder in your bag to like be able to stop on a dime while the ball's in the air and let the DB blow by you and just pluck it out of the air and take what you get. You saw, I mean, as a fan of the Packers, saw this weekly with a variety of receivers with Rodgers, but especially like Devonta Adams, Jordy Nelson, where it's like you can beat him vertically, but you also, if that DB stays stacked on top. And that's what you saw here with Duce Robinson, where he had the back shoulder, and then the next target that he had like a little, just a stop route where he went like 6 yards, stop, diving catch, coming back to the ball against the sideline, really impressive. And then the next target he has is the stop and go. So this DB's like, man, he's been killing me on these back shoulder, the stop route. I got to sit down on this and jump this. And he sells it and then goes back vertical. And it's like, man, that's just good wide receiver work right there. And then the touchdown that he had on like the running back, like pop pass, he sifted through traffic pretty well. Cause I think that running back was going to throw it to that spot no matter what. And he almost runs into a linebacker that's like crossing his face. Kind of sidesteps him and then comes through. So yeah, good awareness in this game. Nice route running. Very smooth player for his size. So pretty impressive.
That I do want to touch on that point that you just made, because I think that's really, really important to highlight here. Is it's not only his physical ability at this size to run that sequence of routes, to be able to pull that off physically. It's also the fact of like how you're talking about setting it up, like the plan and the methodology that he's doing with those 3 routes. I mean, that's extremely high level stuff for a guy who has been, up until this season, a complete project, a player that had not put it together, that had not shown his, an ability on the field that matched what was expected of him when he was recruited. Now, year 3, starting to see it all coming together. So that's why I think 2027, that wide receiver class, loaded as all hell. I think if Duce Robinson keeps this up down, for the entirety of the season, it's been a little bit up and down so far through the first 4 games, but if he can piece together a really strong finish to this season, I think he'll end up in this class.
Yeah, I could absolutely see him, working his way in with kind of an uncertain wide receiver class. There's a lot of names and there's a lot of guys we've talked about, but I don't know if anybody's like solidifying themselves in spots. And I think Robinson, with the size and the movement skills that he has, could easily work his way into conversations.
It helps that he's a 6'6" freak show as well within the class
Yes,
of 5'11", 190
it's
guys.
true.
So,
When everybody is a 5'11" slot,
yeah.
and you get a guy that, I mean, I'm excited to see like the combine pictures of like Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, like the
Yes.
Duce Robinson, and then like, name any of the other receivers in this class.
Well, we have not given this player a badge yet this year.
I
And
needed
I
to
know
get
it's
him on the show, man.
taking you a great joy to hand this one out, I know.
Summer tight end 1, consensus summer tight end 1, Eli Stowers. Has had a solid year with Vandy, the best team in the SEC. Hasn't passed the century mark, hasn't had like gaudy stats, only 2 touchdowns on the season, but just has been like, 86 yards week 1, had like 2 okay weeks with 29-45, and then 73 yards last week, and then 68 this week against Utah State. Season high with 10 targets, season high with 6 receptions, and found the end zone this week. He's the player that we thought he was going to be, where he's consistent. He's getting the silky smooth badge because the way he moves on a field just feels like he's gliding across the like surface, and everything feels like on time and pretty easy. The touchdown catch he had in this game was really impressive because he's in the slot on the left side. He runs this like kind of glance route, catches it way behind him. I mean, this is just an awful throw. And he catches it leaning back, kind of off balance. Defender hits him, and he's just like, yeah, it's all good. Bounces off of him, turns around, goes another 4 yards into the end zone, walks in. It's like, man, this guy is just kind of like a special movement player. And I wanted to, give a little respect to Vanderbilt. Haven't really talked about this team much this season just because, there hasn't been a ton of pop performances coming from this team. Pavia has been pretty good, fun college quarterback. And then Stowers has just been kind of what we expected, and it just he hasn't announced himself like some of these other players have. But also had, the seam route that we lauded during the summer that he runs so well, where he's getting kind of shucked by this linebacker, and he's just tosses him to the side, stays on his route, catches his seam, makes the safety miss, and it's just like, ho hum, I'm just a really good tight end.
Yeah, I think we've been a little bit spoiled over the last few years with like tight end production, where this is the sort of thing where when you put it into context, he's having an awesome season for a college tight end.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, it's not Harold Fannin or Tyler Warren or Brock Bowers, but
I mean, there's a reason we were talking about Warren and Fannin last year as like historic all-time tight ends, because not that many college tight ends have 1,000-yard receiving seasons. If I'm remembering correctly, which I may not be, I'm pretty sure there's only like 15 or something. And those two joined the list last year. So this like 600 to 800 yard mark has kind of always been a pretty solid benchmark for production for tight ends. Am I right? Are you looking it up?
So yeah, I looked it up. Google AI says there are currently no players who have reached 1,000 receiving yards in a single college football season.
Oh man. Thank God for the AI search.
Thank God for the. So I'll keep looking, but
Okay.
that's funny.
But I mean, he's on pace to surpass his totals from last year based off of the start that he's having. He had 644 yards last year, 301 through 5 games this year. He's on pace to break that at this point. Looking at the yards after the catch number, that's also on pace with where he was last year, 159, 7.2 per reception, had 7.5 per reception last season. And the missed tackles forced to go along with that, he's got 4 this season, had 13 last year. So the yak numbers, the elusiveness stuff, it's all on track. And it seems like he's on pace to have an even better season. So while it may seem like a slower start, and we're not giving him badges because he's got 50, 60 yards in these games. 60 to 70 yards per game for a tight end in college usually ends up putting you near the top, if not at the top of the leaderboard at the end of the year.
Amen. I'm still looking. Google AI now says it's not readily available. I tried to look up the record for receiving yards in a season, which Harold Fannin does have. I know that for sure, and it's 1,342 yards. But I was hoping I could get just a list of like the top 10 best yardage season. Apparently, that's impossible. So
it's a tough ask. The internet is cooked. So, that's it. That's 8 badges.
That's all the badges.
Oh my God, what a week!
There's 17 tight ends with 1,000 yards.
17. All right. Yes. So I was afraid that I'm thinking of 15 and that it was going to be like 48, and I was going to be like, oh God damn it! But man, 17. So Warren and Fannin on top of 15. That's what happened in the history of the sport.
That's right.
Have put up 1,000 or more yards receiving. So
how many do you think you could name?
3.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Trey McBride's on there. I'll say that. Dennis Pitta, great name.
Because Bowers isn't on there, right?
Nope.
So that's what I was thinking. Warren, Fannin, and McBride. Those would be the 3 that I know.
Harrison Bryant.
Wow.
Remember, come on.
Oh my God.
And then the rest of them are from the 80s or the 60s through the 90s, besides James Casey and Jay Samaro.
Yep. Packers legend. All right. Well, we gave out a house call badge, but now it is time to make the call home. If you were watching the Penn State Oregon game on Saturday night, as you should have been if you were a college football fan, because it was everything you want to see in a college football game. It is top 10 opponents. It is national championship contenders facing off in Happy Valley in the whiteout. The atmosphere is incredible. The vibes are immaculate. And the game was good. Like entertainment wise, it was a good game. Wasn't a blowout or anything. Went to overtime. But unfortunately, on the Penn State side of things, it seems like maybe this game was only close or closer than it could have been if Drew Allar had performed at the level that we expected from him when we talked about him as a potential number 1 overall pick caliber quarterback in the summer. He did not do that. And in fact, he threw the interception that ended this game in overtime. So, what are your thoughts on this performance and the greater picture of Drew Allar at this point?
It's a really good question because I think it also frames the discussion on this quarterback class as a whole. Because we came in thinking and talking about this quarterback class as potentially like kind of loaded, as we had, high hopes for Arch Manning. We, expected a lot from Allar and Nussmeier. We had high hopes for Sellers, and not all these guys have performed. And it's kind of the narrative on Allar has shifted in this direction surrounding, just because that's what happens after national games. These high profile on broadcast television, everybody's watching, primetime matchup, whiteout, all the things you frame this with are when narratives are forged. And when you go out and you have a stinker like Allar did in this game, then the narrative shifts a little bit. It goes from, Allar top 5, this is a, the bad teams are going to hinge their hopes on Drew Allar for their next number 1 pick, whatever. But it feels like that's changed overnight from like, oh, Allar, kind of not what I'm looking for out of the quarterback position. And Allar had a bad game. I'll say that. Like, I'm not gonna pretend that he didn't, but I think Allar's still like fine. Like he's had a kind of an underwhelming season, I would say. Could have came out last year. We talked about that a little bit. Maybe a little bit of unfinished business for Allar at Penn State, but like I still see the same player that I saw in like the summer and last year. So I'm not ready to sit here and be like, oh, well, Allar stinks now. Like, it's over. But I understand if you're like, Allar's not for me, because I think Allar has a type of like a play style that isn't for everybody. So like if that's what you're basing it on, and it's not just like, oh, he threw the pick to lose against Oregon, he sucks, then I can respect that take.
I think for me, the part of this that is concerning is the reason why the public sentiment on Allar, it feels like, was lower. This is something we discussed in the summer when we talked about Drew Allar. The perception of Allar seems to be worse than what the player actually is. But that is because the games that people watch Drew Allar are games like this one or games like the playoff game last year. Their exposure to Allar is the biggest moments of Allar's season. And Allar consistently disappoints in those situations. That is something that has plagued him, going back now almost 2.5 years, basically. So I think it's fair. It's fair to say that over the course of 2.5 years, all of these moments that you've really struggled are kind of when the limelight is on. I mean, we were talking about this, even go all the way back to summer of 2024 when we were watching 2023 Allar, and that season was like the Ohio State game. It was like a complete disaster. And it was like, well, that was kind of nuts, but whatever. And then last year, obviously the playoff game, we talked about that. that's where a lot of people, I think, got this opinion of him as, well, what, this is the guy they're talking about going first overall? Like, what the hell? And like, I was very critical of people who were coming after him because of that one game. Like, watch the whole body of work before you jump to a conclusion. But now you see the biggest game of the season, the bright lights, you're at home, like everybody's watching. And it felt like this was another instance where Drew Allar just disappointed in that environment. So I think there's something to be said about that because, we've become very sensitive to quarterbacks, of course, because quarterback development is in a weird place in the NFL. And I think a player like Allar, who's kind of consistently failing to meet expectations in big games, I think it's fair to say what happens when every game is a big game in the NFL. What does it look like at that point?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's 100% fair. And you never want to get the label of like doesn't show up in big games, and that usually like that sticks with you, because even if you have like one good game in a big game, like the next one that you have that's bad, the label gets stuck right back on you. So I again, like, the talent is what it is, the big plays, the good games, it's kind of like, maybe it's like a toxic relationship, and like, when it's good, and maybe you're looking at it through
Hey,
the wrong lens if you're saying that.
listen, I am also not here to say that this game was irredeemable, that he's off my board. I mean, he did not play well in the first half. He got them to overtime. I mean, the corner route, the big touchdown when it was 17-3, and it seemed like it was about to fall apart. It seemed like Oregon was in complete control. He hits that bomb to the corner over two defenders, perfectly placed. I mean, he still has those kinds of throws, even in a game like this one, where, for a large part of the game, it wasn't working. Then you still see that level of a throw come from him, and you're like, oh man, you're bringing me back in, man. You're reeling me right back in.
Yep, and even the pick that he threw, it was kind of like a limit tester kind of throw of like, I'm gonna push this ball to the sideline to like my deep corner route, and a throw that he can make and has made, and it's like, that's why he's an NFL prospect, is because he's willing and able to make that throw into tight coverage. Just underthrew it a little bit this time and ended up getting picked off. So I don't know. I'm fine with Drew Allar. A little bit of a sour taste after watching that, but oh well.
Oh well. All right. Well, the good news is that we don't end on bad news at Camp Dynasty, because it is time to gather around the fire and reminisce about the campers of old on All Grown Up.
Already one touchdown. Robinson's going to have two today. He's looking. He's throwing for the end zone. Fingertip grab. Down to Carlos in first and goal. Jetty. So much power. He's going to bang it in.
This is a very exciting night around the campfire, I would say. This was a good week. We've spent a lot of time, you and I, out here roasting marshmallows and just yelling into the void. This was a good one.
This was the best one so far. I'd say pretty easily. We're looking at like breakout performances by a lot of rookies. We're looking at some guys taking the leap maybe. I think it all starts with Mr. 101 finally doing the thing. 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, one on like a sick vintage Ashton Genty play. But it switches back to the old stance, which has been made pretty, a lot of people are talking about it, but I'm also going to talk about it because I don't know if it matters, but trying to be like, hey, I know you had 5,000 yards in college last year. Let's tweak some things when you're Chip Kelly. all right, man, shut the fuck up. Like, let's not. What do you know? Like, let's not. And then Genty goes back to being Michael Myers and tearing apart the defense. Where obviously they don't win this game, but he has one of those masterpiece kind of Genty performances, and he's been good all year. We've been kind of talking about that in sidebars mostly, but the O-line has not been doing him any favors, and we didn't really expect him to be, like a high efficiency running back. It was more so like a volume running back, and he's had the volume and now turned it into, with the big run, turned it into like one of these big performances. So how'd you feel watching Genty finally have his moment?
I mean, it's the best, and it's the best because it's all of the Ashton Genty things, like you said. Like, obviously, you mentioned it. It's the run, the Ashton Genty run. But when you look at the overall, what does the game look like on the stat sheet? It looks like an Ashton Genty stat sheet from Boise State.
Yep.
123 yards after contact. That was 5.86 per attempt. He's got 9 missed tackles forced in this game. I mean, he's doing all the things that he was doing in college. And this was the first real time we got to see it in action at the NFL level. So that is incredibly exciting. Also, really, really confused as to why they haven't gotten him more involved in the passing game. This was something we talked about a lot, where he wasn't super involved at Boise State last year, but 2 years ago led all running backs in receiving yardage. Like, get the ball in his hands in space. Geno is kind of, things are not necessarily looking all that pretty there right now. I mean, the receiving weapons that he has, aren't excellent. Brock Bowers is hurt. Get the ball to Ashton Genty in the flat and let him do something with it. And even in this game, he still only had the 2 receptions. Both of them went for touchdowns. But, I mean, like, get him involved. Get the ball in his hands in more ways.
Yeah, I think Chip Kelly said, like, yeah, I'd love for him to have, like 40 touches a game, but we got to, like, manage the workload. And it's like, I mean, do you? When you're trotting out, like, Raheem Mostert, who's like 30 something or other, like 33, 34 years old. Like, I don't know. I feel like doesn't Genty just give you a better chance? But I'm not a coach, so what do I know?
Right.
Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe you just got to give Genty a breather every once in a while. I get it. But yeah, throw him, just dump it off to him every once in a while, Geno. You don't have to, thread the needle and make like the coolest throw possible every time. I know I love watching them, but man, sometimes that dig route just is not as open as it. Even though you can throw it, like, you don't have to, brother. Like, let's check it down to number 2 in the flat.
Meanwhile, Omari and Hampton doing a little bit of his own breakout moment. Obviously, we talked last week about Najee Harris, the injury. What was that going to mean moving forward? Well, in this game, it was 12 carries, 128 yards, and a touchdown for Hampton.
Yeah, pretty good. There was a couple plays where it's just like he looks like he would be just miserable to tackle. Like, it just feels like I don't want to be between him and like the first down marker or the pylon. Like, I think I would opt out of that. Like, let me get one, coach. I think they're in heavy set. He's coming off. The one play that I think everybody's probably seen by now, he takes the ball to the right side and gets kind of like stuffed at the line of scrimmage, and like Herbert comes up to like push him the extra yard, and he ends up getting like 16 yards on the play. He's like carrying multiple defenders, just chugging the legs. It's like, yeah, this is Omari and Hampton, baby. And there was a little bit of like question of, I think, like week 1, maybe a little bit week 2. they were like heavy zone scheme, and they have switched to like almost fully gap scheme. And I think that was really smart because Hampton is a better gap runner than a zone runner. And basically, they're like, "Hey, Omarion, you're hitting the four gap. Like, let's do this." Instead of making him, go lateral, read it out, put that foot in the ground, and go. They're just like, "Hey, man, get to the four hole, and you got to beat the linebacker to the spot." And goddamn, it's working.
It's like it's so great when you just see it translate exactly in the way that it was working for him in college. Like the gap scheme running. That was the thing. His vision is fine. It's not excellent. If he knows where he needs to go, he's going to get there fast and he's going to get there hard.
Yep.
And that's now what we've been seeing. And in this game, I mean, it was the Omari and Hampton game, just like it was the Genty game. 85 yards after contact. That was 7.08 per attempt. I mean, a ridiculous number. He's mixing in as a receiver. Here's another back that was involved as a pass catcher in college that's actually getting the receiving work in the NFL. Hasn't been anything insane, but 6 catches last week, 5 this week, 32 or 37 yards, so, in terms of a fantasy impact, 150 yards and a touchdown. I mean, it was a huge day for him. So a player that I loved, absolutely loved, but did have a little bit of like, is it going to be a slow start? Is the acclimation period going to be just a little bit longer? Maybe like second half of the season, we'd start to see him coming alive. He's already there.
Yep. And another running back that's already there, Woody Marks, man.
Bang.
I can't believe how good Woody Marks looked in this game. Like the waiver priority guy of the week. Joe Mixon, it came out that like he might not even play this year. And Nick Chubb has looked like, whatever. Dameon Pierce is not going to play football anymore, apparently, outside of special teams. And Woody Marks gets like, I think 60-70%, like a little over 60% of snaps in this game, and is just like dominant. Like he looked awesome, so much juice. We talked about Woody Marks a little bit as almost like we talked about him as a sleeper, and we were talking about like the man, really good pass catcher. I don't know exactly what this looks like if he's going to be a real running back. Like working him in as a third down back is going to be fun if you have him in PPR. Like, have him like stashed in a PPR league is kind of how we talked about Woody Marks. And he's just like a real running back, full stop, like coming out, doing the damn thing. And there was a clip that came out mic'd up of D'Amico Ryans where they threw like it was just a little flat route or a screen on 3rd and 17 to Woody Marks. And Woody Marks is like, or D'Amico Ryans before the play is like, do you think this is like field goal? Like, do you think we can get it there? And he's like, it's a little deep. I think you just punt here. And then during the play, Woody Marks gets like 7 yards, and he's like, oh, that's field goal range. And then Woody Marks makes another guy miss and gets the first down. And he's like, first down. He's hyped up, and he's like, let's go. So I think the coaching staff, everybody is Woody Marks fans, and I think everybody in fantasy is pretty hyped about this too.
There's definitely a clip out there after our trip to the combine last year where you were a little bit. I'm fairly certain we're a little bit enamored with Woody Marks.
The way he moved, like watching him operate in the drills, especially like the passing game drills, compared to everybody else. It was like everybody else is kind of like, going through, and then Woody Marks just looks like a slot receiver. And like he looks like he belongs with the receivers. And it's like, man, this guy moves just kind of different than all these other players.
1,400 yards receiving in his college career. That's what I thought it was going to be in the NFL. Like, he's a pure pass catcher, and he's doing that. He's getting the pass catching work, but also now getting 17 carries in this game and doing a lot with those carries. So Exciting stuff.
You want to know his real first name? Can you guess it?
Ooh, I feel like I heard this in the process last year, but I don't remember.
It's Jaquavius. I wonder how you end up
Honestly,
with the nickname Woody. Is it like a Toy Story thing, do you think?
could be.
What were you thinking?
Don't
Never
ask.
mind.
Don't ask. Man, I hate to just talk about all running backs here, but I feel like I cannot let a 25 carry Cam Scattaboo game pass us by here
can't.
tonight. I mean, yes, it took the injury to Tyrone Tracy, but I think this is exactly why I and you, I believe, were not super concerned about this landing spot for
Yeah, I would agree.
Scannable. Like it wasn't like, oh my God, he's fourth round pick and he's behind Tracy. It was like we literally had the conversation at the time of like a year ago, this was Tracy. Like a year ago, Tracy was the day 3 flyer running back. But in this case, Cam Scattaboo was a player that, obviously I liked a lot. You liked a little bit less than that. But yeah, I mean, he's doing exactly what he did in college as well. He's just kicking ass. He's running into guys and putting his head first.
Yeah, when he had like -3 yards week 1 and got like the angry run scepter, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a pretty special season. It's pretty special running back season. And now that he's getting positive yards on most plays, it's like just a really fun running back to watch. There's been a ton of jokes about like this is going to be the most fun 3-year career in like NFL history because like the violence that he plays with and like the reckless abandon that he has for his own health and others is fun to watch. Yeah, a little bit scary, but my favorite Scattaboo moment was him after the game. I mean, his touchdown celebration, one of the best in the league. The like backflip into like the like I don't know if he's surfing or I don't know if he knows what he's doing. But the picture of him afterwards with his arms up and his like shirt like covered in dirt. And it's like they play on turf, by the way. It's like, how is he covered in dirt? So I don't know if he's like the kid from like Charlie Brown, but I'm in.
Oh man, it's gonna be a short but fun ride.
That's right.
That is a thing.
Talk about his teammate,
Yeah.
Jackson Dart, who
Ooh.
got his first start, one of 2 first-round quarterbacks in the draft, and the classic coach-saving maneuver of let's throw my rookie quarterback who's definitely not ready into the fire and let him get sacked 7 times and get injured. Really good idea by the Giants organization, who is known to be full of great ideas. Brian Daboll completely being buoyed by Josh Allen's greatness right now, I would say. I feel like that I can say that pretty comfortably of, hey, we have like the one of one outlier alien situation that happened and Brian Daboll is taking credit for it and like, hey, I'm the quarterback guy that made Josh Allen good. I'll make Jackson Dart good. I'll make Daniel Jones good. Well, we'll see. Obviously, it's to be determined. Dart had a good fantasy day. He had like 24 points in like fantasy because he had a big run. He had, I think, 1 called back for holding. Had a rushing touchdown. So while his number 1 receiver is now out for the season, so we'll see how that impacts him. Didn't have a great day through the air. Looked like was holding the ball way too long. I think he got sacked 6 or 7 times. Tuipulotu had like 4 sacks on his own. Like this was just Dart holding the ball a long time, him scrambling a lot, him throwing the ball all over the yard, and Scattaboo like being like a billy goat, like putting his head down and ramming people. So the Giants, if nothing else, are going to be a fun team to watch.
Unfortunately, a little bit less fun to watch, though.
Yeah,
Can we talk about the bad news real quick?
we'll have our funeral procession.
I mean, it's not fair.
MetLife takes another.
Let's get the turf out of the game. I mean, the most fun young player in the sport now, like his, the spiritual predecessor in Odell Beckham before him
Right.
getting taken out. And, I'm not here to listen. I'm not here to say that this means anything long term, but I think we've also learned recently that ACL injuries do not automatically just disappear once the guy is healed. Like, we've seen these injuries linger a year, 2 years into a player's career. Some players, it affects them very long term. And I think in Neighbor's case, he's young. He's got that going for him. But I mean, it's just really unfortunate that this is something that happened to one of the great young stars of the game.
Yeah, it sucks to see, and like I don't know if it's like specifically like it feels like it's a MetLife thing, like MetLife Stadium. I know that they installed uh, a so they used to have slit film turf. I did a whole thing when I did like a research project on different types of turfs and injuries when I was in school, and they used to have slit film turf, and that was when like all of the Jets players like tore their ACL. There was like I think like 4 Jets players that tore their ACL. There was like 2 49ers players. And like this was the year like Nick Bosa tore his ACL in MetLife, and there was like a rash of injuries. They changed their turf after that, so it's not the same like dangerous MetLife turf that like Odell Beckham got hurt on and all that. But it's about playing on a consistent surface. I think that feels like an honest representation where it's like guys have to play on either all grass or all turf. Like you can't be going back and forth. The way your cleats dig in is different on all the fields. The way your body reacts is different on every type of field. So let's work one fully into the game because every turf is different. There's field turf, there's slit film turf, there's many different types of turf. We got to get like a standard across everything. Soccer has it. They don't have that many lower body injuries. Let's create a standard and stop seeing our superstars tear their ligaments outside of like freak accidents that happen. I understand it's a collision sport. I understand it's a contact sport and things happen. But when guys are just like landing and then they're out for a full year, like that just sucks. Nobody wants that.
Let's get consistency, and let's make sure it's grass.
Yep.
How about that?
That'd be great. And the only reason that people don't want grass, can you guess what the reason is?
I always just assume it was a money thing.
It is. It's capitalism.
Yeah.
People want to have concerts. People want to have, all these things. And if you do them, then you ruin your grass because you're using your stadium 365 days a year. So it's just corporate greed, man.
There it is. Well, we don't, as I said when we started this segment, we don't end on bad news.
We don't.
So I'm gonna now play a little bit of a game with you.
Oh, okay.
Because I mean, I feel like this was a sort of a week where we get to the campfire and it's just like, hey, Ashton Genty, he's cool. Hey, Omarion Hampton, he's cool. But what does this all mean? Well, how about this player? This is an interesting player right now. Isaiah Bond.
Ooh.
The entire journey of Bond from a top 5 wide receiver for us in the summer last year to the disappointing season at Texas to the combine shenanigans that happened to the legal things that popped up with him. And, oh, by the way, he was also undrafted in the middle of all of that. So it's been a bumpy ride, to say the least, for Isaiah Bond. But lo and behold, who's the player on the Browns this week? The rookie that is showing a little bit of potential promise. It's Isaiah Bond with 3 catches for 58 yards. So are you buying it?
I mean, with the Cedric Tillman injury, it's hard to say like I'm totally out on it because he had, I think he had the most targets on the team in this game. He had 6 targets with 3 catches. It's been such a weird journey, but you look at like what Bond, he got signed to like a $3 million fully guaranteed contract with the Browns, which is pretty unprecedented for a player, of this kind of stature, where it was so weird and nobody really knows what exactly, if everything's going to resolve itself and what this player is. And we thought that you were going to break the combine record, and then you ran like a 4.5 or whatever. It was just like, it's such a weird player, but he looks good. But throw another wrench in the plan, because it seemed like him and Flacco had a little bit of a thing. Well, Joe Flacco's benched now. So, like, is Dylan Gabriel going to have a thing with him? I don't know. So, while it seems like he's, like, earned a spot on an NFL roster, earning targets in an NFL offense, like, that doesn't seem fake to me. But will it be, like, persisting? I'm not sure. But I feel like he'll keep playing if, like, that matters.
So the game aspect of this, and this is going to be very near and dear to your heart, because I think you literally just played this game in real life. I watched it happen.
Yeah.
But let's say Bond is on a team in your league right now. Would you pay a third? Let's say that the other team is willing to move on for the right price, and they say a third will do it. Do you pay a third for Isaiah Bond right now?
So the way I'm looking at this, and this is very, this matters because I offered basically a third for Isaiah Bond in our taxi claim system that we have in our league. And the reason I did it is because I'm like, if I was in the 2025 draft and I knew that Isaiah Bond was going to like be relevant on an offense, I'd draft him with a 3rd round pick. So like, sure. Like when you get into the 3rd, and IDP drafts are a little different. Superflex IDP drafts are very different. But when you talk about an IDP draft, there's still like a pretty reasonable amount of people left in the 3rd that are like probably going to be relevant. And so it's like, it's a little bit of a gamble to throw a third at Isaiah Bond, because if it's just a 1 week blip on the radar and he's back down to 30% of snaps next week, then you basically just burned a 3rd round pick. But there's a chance, I think, that like he's a nice wide receiver 2 on this offense in like the future, and like why not, right? And if like Dylan Gabriel's decent, then you could see something, or if they have a quarterback in the draft next year and you're like, all right, now, Judy has moved on and Cedric Tillman and Isaiah Bond are things in this offense. I don't know.
I think if you are a Bond person, sure. And you don't need me to tell you that, because you're a Bond person.
Right.
So of course you want to throw a third at him. But I think it's one of those things where if you believe in Isaiah Bond, then yeah, throw that third, see what happens. Get on the ride right now, because maybe next week he has a 100-yard game, and then it's over.
Right.
Maybe next week Dylan Gabriel can't move the ball and he has 0 catches on 3 targets. So
hey, next man up, Shedeur Sanders.
It's going to be really hard for him to command the huddle when he can't talk.
Silent play calls.
But For me. It's I'm starting to get back into this mentality. For a while, I was starting to be like, you play a little bit of the game of trying to get in on players at the right time. It get the players that you believe in. The players that you believe in, get those players. And the players that it's like, well, the opportunity is kind of there, and it's, it seems like on paper that this could work out. Like, if you don't believe in the player and you pay the price to get him and he doesn't work out, you're going to be like, why did I do that? I didn't even, so it's like, bond people, go get him right now.
I like it.
And that is week 4 of the NFL and week 5 of college football. So like we said at the top, the trends are forming. The midseason rankings update is rapidly approaching. We got a little bit of a taste of what might be coming on the updated top 12s when that comes in, I believe, 2 weeks' time. But to be honest with you, I don't know that I'm going to really know what my top 12 looks like until I get to the week before and I have to start putting it together. I feel like it could get crazy.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of potential outcomes. There's so much that's changing. It feels like week to week, and until I say it on the podcast, I think it'll be fluid.
Yeah. Yes. If you enjoyed our discussion this week about week 5 of college football and week 4 in the NFL, be sure to find us on Twitter, camp_dynasty. Give us a follow there, and find us on TikTok, camp.dynasty over there as well. If you are watching us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you enjoyed yourself before you leave, because we appreciate that. And if you are listening on the pod feed, be sure to like and rate and review and follow and subscribe and whatever you can do to various podcast platforms, because we appreciate that as well.
And if you have, between $8 and $20 to spend, go see One Battle After Another. Incredible film. Go see it in the biggest format you can. If you live near an IMAX theater, go to that. If you live near one of the 3 VistaVision theaters, it was filmed in VistaVision. It doesn't ever happen. But if you can watch it in VistaVision, go do that.
Next week, Leo will be on the pod to talk about his favorite.
He's been on a ton of podcasts for that. Maybe we can shrink him into coming over here.
Talk to him about the film a little bit, and then, so what's your big board looking like right about now?
What do you think of, what are you thinking of Elijah Sarratt in this Indiana offense?
You like drinking lemonade? You big lemonade fan? Thanks for stopping by Camp Dynasty this week, and we'll see you next week.